Welcome to the first part of our series on the Trojan War, a conflict that sits at the volatile intersection of ancient epic poetry and the brutal reality of Bronze Age warfare. Historians debate whether the war was truly sparked by the abduction of Helen of Sparta by Prince Paris, or if it was driven by the city's immense control over vital maritime trade. The Achaean coalition, a massive alliance of Mycenaean city-states, faced off against the Trojans and their Anatolian allies, including the Dardanians, Lycians, and Thracians, in a struggle for regional dominance. Looking at the map of the Aegean, we see Troy's strategic position at the Dardanelles, a crucial choke point connecting the Aegean Sea to the Black Sea, making it a lucrative target for taxation. Traditional accounts date this clash to 1194 BCE, though archaeological evidence at Hizarlik, specifically layers VIH and VIIA, suggests a major, fire-ravaged conflict occurred around 1250 BCE. The early phase of the war saw the Greeks struggle to establish a beachhead, leading to the death of Protesilaus, the first Achaean to set foot on Trojan soil during the initial landing. Bronze Age warfare relied heavily on chariot-based mobility and infantry phalanxes, yet the thick, fortified walls of Troy proved nearly impossible to breach using the standard siege tactics of the era. As the conflict intensified, the civilian population of the Troad suffered immensely, with surrounding villages systematically raided by Achaean forces to secure the massive food supplies required for a long-term blockade. While the Hittite Empire remained a dominant regional power, their records mention Walusa, a city that many scholars identify as Troy, suggesting that this war held significant geopolitical implications for the wider Near East. A critical detail of the early campaign was the Achaean reliance on the Oath of Tyndareus, a binding pact that forced the Greek kings to support Menelaus in his quest to reclaim his wife. We must introduce Agamemnon, the High King of Mycenae, who served as the supreme commander of the Achaean forces, orchestrating the massive mobilization of ships and warriors from across the Greek mainland. Examining the map, the initial theater of war was confined to the Trojan coastline, where the Greeks built a fortified camp to protect their fleet from constant sorties launched by the city's defenders. The timeline of the opening phase shows a rapid mobilization at Aulis followed by a 10-year stalemate, as the Greeks failed to secure a decisive victory against the heavily defended citadel. The conflict widened as the Greeks expanded their reach, conducting naval raids on neighboring Anatolian cities to isolate Troy from its allies and cut off its essential supply lines. Both sides stood to lose everything. For the Trojans, the war was a fight for survival, while for the Achaeans, failure meant the collapse of their prestige and the loss of their massive, expensive investment. We see the first hints of the coming turning point in the internal friction between Agamemnon and his greatest warrior, Achilles, a rift that would eventually threaten the stability of the entire Achaean military effort. The war remains a grinding, unresolved stalemate, with the impregnable walls of Troy still standing tall against the relentless pressure of the gathered Greek fleet and their frustrated, battle-hardened commanders. In our next episode, we will dive deeper into the tactical shifts of the siege, the rise of Hector as a supreme defender, and the catastrophic impact of the wrath of Achilles. Heinrich Schliemann's 1870s excavations at Hizarlik provided the first modern archaeological confirmation that a major city existed at this site, lending weight to the idea that the epic poem reflects a historical reality. Finally, the legacy of Troy persists today as the foundational myth of Western literature, forever linking the fall of this ancient city to the rise of new empires and the complex nature of human conflict.